Nice. All right. Welcome to the Get Optimized podcast. And we are into the CBC 2025 preview series where we're going to be joined by special guests that are going to be with us at CBC in our super cool Profit and Ops Center expo space. And we're going to talk about CBC in this episode and all things to expect and what we think and all that fun stuff. Today, we are joined by Ricky from Perfectly Dosed. Ricky, what's up, dude? Thanks for being here, man.
Thanks for having me, Chris. I'm thrilled to be here.
Of course, man. I'm excited to talk to you because you're the fun one. We get to talk about cool things like THC additives and all that fun stuff. And I know a lot of brewers are interested to learn more about this stuff. And why don't you start there? Tell us who you are and what Perfectly Dosed is, and let's go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So Perfectly Dosed, we're based in Chicago, but we work with brewers nationwide at this point, and we make hemp emulsions. What an emulsion is really just a fancy term for mixing some sort of oil with water. And so when you're working with hemp, you can derive THC, CBD. There are minor cannabinoids you can derive as well. And we are making them so that they can easily be mixed into a water-based product. Obviously, that's not going to be an alcoholic product per se, especially if it's THC. But things like sodas, mocktails, seltzers, depending on which community you're living in, you might already see these on the shelf in liquor stores, and we are the active ingredient powering those beverages.
Excellent. We certainly see some stuff here in Vegas. This stuff has been legal for a few years now, and the market really has come along really well in this area. It's nice to see. I think it's a cool thing here, and in other spots of the country are moving along with it. And now, the brewing industry is trying to get creative and do new things to provide products to new customers or existing customers that want new stuff. So you guys are in an excellent position to be helping these folks, and this is a perfect topic and thing to be talking about as we get into CBC, where people are trying to learn stuff. So, like I
Yeah.
said, I'm stoked to talk to you about it.
Well, I appreciate that. And what you mentioned is interesting too, because there is a lot to learn and it can be challenging to navigate. Where in Vegas specifically, in Nevada, that being a state where marijuana is legal, you'll see both marijuana and hemp products. And being able to determine the differences between the two is really important. And using hemp creates kind of this interesting new dynamic that we haven't really seen in the marketplace before. I'm from Colorado, so I've been around cannabis my entire life. But using hemp is kind of the first time that you're able to see them on the shelf of a liquor store as opposed to a dispensary. Here in Chicago, I can go to any Total Wine or Binny's, and there's a whole shelf full of these things.
Yeah, definitely. And, so personal questions on this front. Well, not personal, but like, out of my own curiosity before we get into the CBC stuff, something you said about it not being alcohol based. Is it like not possible to make it alcohol and THC CBD, or is it just like that's a regulatory thing? They don't want to be mixing these things up, or like, I assume maybe there's some kind of chemical composition that the two can't play with each other, or I don't know. So you mind
No, that's a great
explaining
question. And the answer is both, really. I mean, I think the regulatory side of things is definitely one that is dynamic right now. It's ever changing. But to that end, I don't think anyone really wants another Four Loco style product. It's kind of best, especially if people are newer to the cannabis space, to keep the two separate. But you're right on the side of product compatibility and chemistry as well. There is some funky stuff where exposure to alcohol will actually break that emulsion, and you start to get the oil to separate from the water, which no one wants.
that? Yeah, okay. So yeah, I mean there's maybe this the science continues here. There are some ways to get super twisted, but not yet. Let's keep it chill, people. And not get crossfaded all the time, and let's walk before we run in this stuff. Man, Four Locos, dude, I remember those, and
Good old
they,
days.
I'm sure they still make them. Are they still on the shelves around?
If they are, I haven't seen them in a long time.
Dude, those things were dangerous.
Collector's edition for Loco.
We used to drink them all. I had a couple when I was in college, and I was like, yeah, no, I'm not doing these anymore. I'll stick to beer and shots or whatever. But those things were nuts.
Yeah, yeah, same here.
So let's talk CBC. Have you guys been to CBC before or not yet?
No, this is our first show. or I should say my first show, and Perfectly Dosed full show, first show. We've got, I don't know, probably 30 plus years of brewing experience across the team. Me personally, I'm a little newer to the brewing world, but specifically on our operations team, the folks actually making our emulsion, they have spent much of their lives and careers in beer.
Excellent. Well, you are in for a treat, man. CBC is like so cool. People say it's the Super Bowl of the craft brewing thing. There's like a humongous expo space and all this great educational content that's there, and it's going to be fun to hang out with you as you kind of see these things. I'm sure you've been to other expos as well, though. In your
Yeah, no, I'm really excited for it. I've been to a lot of great guild meetings, which is just so fun to finally meet a lot of these brewers that I'm interacting with in person. But yeah, to your point, I've definitely heard that CBC is the next level of it, and I can't wait to see it all.
It's going to be dope. So this is going to be a fun conversation then. So because you're coming to this thing for the first time, what are you looking forward to, man? What are you excited about headed into it?
Yeah, I am looking forward to just fielding questions, to be honest with you. Like the conversations that are had are always so interesting and engaging. And this is, like I said, such a nascent and new space that's really quickly developing. So many cool different things that folks can do, whether it is taking a great hop water line that you already have, adding THC to it and having a whole new product, or going one step further and making like a non-alcoholic beer or something like that. There are a lot of conversations had around the regulatory side of things as well, navigating that. Basically, the way it works right now is the federal government has said that hemp derived THC is legal, but hasn't really stepped in to offer guidelines as to where to draw the lines there. And so it's fallen to a state level, which means that we have to understand basically each of the 50 states' differences and nuances. And so being able to work with each brewer specifically is always a new, fresh, interesting, exciting conversation because there's something new going on every time.
You guys got to just be prepared because you're going to get folks from all over the country that are going to be like, "Oh, I got questions about this, and can I do it in Alabama? Can I do it in California? What's the this, that, and the other?" And I mean, is that overwhelming for you to know all that stuff, or are you guys pretty locked on that?
It's it's exciting, I would say, more so than overwhelming. I personally am the one working with a lot of these breweries, so I have these conversations regularly. That said, I'm supported by a terrific government affairs team, where the head of our government affairs program used to work at a major cannabis multi-state operator, and he is definitely very well plugged in. He's on the board of the Hemp Beverage Alliance. So I've got a great team supporting me. I like to say if I don't have the answer to the question, I'm sure someone on my team does.
Yeah, man, that's awesome, dude. To have the support of the regulatory body, so you guys can bounce that back and forth. Because I'm sure this stuff is constantly changing.
Yeah. And the other really cool part too is like craft brewers have such an impact on their community, both when it comes to developing a product. Like craft brewers know their community unlike anyone else and can put out something that their customers are going to be really excited about. But also, they have a really big voice when it comes to working with regulators. And if this is something that can increase some of their profitability, it's a cool and new, exciting frontier. Then the government listens, and that's a very powerful thing, a very powerful tool for them to have, especially when brewers are making great products that are generally safe for consumption. So I see it as something super exciting to have them engaged in the conversation as well.
You bring up a good point too, is that the brewers know their community and can be responsive to that. But I want to say that I heard someone talking about this in San Diego. I was there for the CBP Connects event, and they were talking about trends and drinker trends, and of course hazy IPAs get brought up, and it's like, oh yeah, what do we do? We're trying to be reactive to that. But somebody made an excellent point, and I wish I remember who. So if you're listening, hopefully you see this. Tell me, I'll give you credit for this. But um, they said that part of why hazies got so popular and some of these IPAs and that got so popular is because that's what brewers wanted to make, and they made it, and the market saw that, and they led the taste preference that way, and it was pushback against like all we can do is brew this way. And I think it's a cool point to say, look, like you can actually influence, like, so if you want to brew something and experiment with it, do it, and do it because you love and have a passion for it. And I see that as like a kind of down your guys' road too, is like, hey, if you have something, you have a passion for this, you want to experiment with this, try it. And if you do a great job, and your customers are going to like that and see it as like, hey, this is something cool happening here. And you have a chance to do something creative and new in your market too, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, just the brand that breweries built for themselves has people have such an identity with that brand, which I think is really cool. I mean, I personally, if I'm going into a liquor store, or convenience store, something like that to pick up either beer or THC drinks, I'm always going to look for the local producer because I think that's so much more fun. Obviously, you're going to have bigger brands in the space as well. They're already part of the THC beverage space. But I think that brewers do have a really unique and cool opportunity to own their niche.
So, kind of down this road too, a lot of what happens, leading up to, during, and definitely after CBC is it seems like there's some common themes of discussions and what people are looking for and what the industry is trying to do. And we're at an interesting spot in the industry. Last year wasn't a great year for brewers. The BA released some data saying the industry kind of shrank a little bit, and people are worried. Business owners are trying to figure this thing out. And now the talk is like, well, what are we going to do about that? I'm curious your opinion on like, what do you think that talk is going to be? Do you think there's going to be some themes coming out of CBC that you're seeing in the industry now that will be talked about in the buzz of the town from this event, or are you not sure at this point because you're still kind of getting into it? What's your thought on that?
I think it's going to be very interesting. I think you raise a good point. I imagine a lot of these conversations are going to be about cost savings and increasing profitability. I've been to enough guild meetings to know that the presentations already are talking about, hey, how do you maximize revenue in the tap room? Whether it's a matter of increasing your food program, having live events, whatever it is to get folks in the door. Um, and I think that conversation definitely goes a lot broader, right? I've heard it enough times to say that the golden age of craft brewing was make it and they will come. And we're not quite at that point anymore, right? You have to be a little bit more strategic about what you're going to make and how you're going to actually get that off the shelf and into the consumer's hands. And so to me, I think that there are going to be some really interesting conversations around just optimizing your business generally. Where I see the THC products coming into that conversation is just generating a new revenue stream. And even there, it's a really important conversation to have because there is a bit of this push and pull, right? The core business, you're a brewery, you make beer, you need to protect that business, you need to protect your license, your insurance, all of those facets that you work so hard to build. While at the same time, there's this THC product that offers huge potential returns. A lot of the breweries that I'm working with are seeing 10% plus net new revenue in less than a year. And numbers like that are hard to ignore. So finding the balance that's right for your business model, whether that means introducing a new revenue stream through a THC drink, or whether that means focusing on other things, optimizing your operations, and focusing on other parts of your system. That's what I think we'll see at CBC.
I think that's a great point. I love the point you made about new revenue opportunities and opportunities for profit and new products and that kind of stuff, because I think that will be a common topic. Here was some last year, about NA and seltzers and that kind of stuff, and I think people are starting to figure that out pretty well. I think it's not necessarily going away, but it's like, all right, what else can we do? And if you don't want to do seltzers, or if you need something else in the mix here, and then how do we do that? What resources do we need? What equipment we need? And that sort of stuff. And that's actually another interesting question to ask you too, is another aspect of CBC is that it's networking and strategic relationships come as part of that. There's the B2C side of like, hey, you need our widget or our service. But like as a business person yourself, like you also need to collaborate with other partners in the industry. Are you looking for any of that going into CBC to see, because you mentioned equipment and some of these things, is that part of your strategy and for your business?
Yeah, I think we're always trying to get smarter is the best way to put it. I think at the moment we actually are in an old brewing space ourselves. So a lot of the
Oh,
infrastructure that
cool.
we use to produce our product is with brewing infrastructure, which is pretty cool. So as I can have, and my team can have more and more conversations with the folks who are experts in that, we can get smarter, we can optimize our own business as well. And the flip side of that is the other folks who are attending. This is new. I don't think anyone expects any brewery to know everything about THC, CBD, or anything else. And so just being willing to have those conversations with an open mind is kind of what we're all about.
So I mean, maybe lots of brewers have lots of familiarity with the product in their own way, of course.
And that is true as well. Yeah.
Myself included, of course. But that's rad, dude. I think that's part of it for sure. Is brushing shoulders with folks horizontally is excellent thing to do. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've just had a cool conversation with somebody and the light bulbs go off. Where I'm like, oh man, that's a great idea.
Totally.
Uh, that you just came up with right there, and I'm sure you'll have lots of that for
Totally.
yourself.
And that's what it's all about, right? Like you mentioned the point about past CBCs talking about non-alcoholic and seltzers and stuff like that. And I think it's pretty easy to fall into this trap of like trying to find some silver bullet that's going to solve all of the issues when in reality, at least my philosophy is like, how do we make all this stuff work together? How do we have a great seltzer? How do we have great NA products? How do we add a THC line so that everything kind of works in harmony and unison?
Yeah. Absolutely. Coming back to you being at CBC for the first time here, usually I ask people, I've asked the other folks that have done this CBC preview stuff, like, what advice do you have for somebody that coming into CBC because you've been before you're the new guy. So
Yeah, I was
I'll
going to say,
flip
send
the
that my way.
I'll flip the script on you and say, what questions do you have? What's on your mind is like, I don't really know, or what advice would you want to get from somebody as somebody who's going to this thing for the first time?
Yeah, I think I personally am super curious to understand what specifically the other attendees are there to accomplish. If this looks like kind of an all-encompassing visit to learn about everything you could possibly want to learn about that could benefit your business as a brewery, or if this tends to be a little bit more, I don't know, ingredients focused or infrastructure focused or forward thinking focused. Like what are the goals that most of the people who are attending this event looking to accomplish during the couple of days that they're in Indianapolis?
Yeah, man. Speaking for myself, not to just go turn point on this and be like, oh, well, let me give you the advice, because I certainly don't know everything. I'm still kind of a newbie. This will be the third time I've gone and first time exhibiting, but um, yeah, there's a mixed bag of all of that, dude. It's people that are looking for the thought leadership stuff. There's people that have been in the brewing industry for, decade plus, and they've got all the equipment they need. They're here to learn, but there's also a lot of people that are like, yeah, I'm brand new. We just opened our brewery, or we're trying to open, and we're trying to figure out what equipment we need and what is costs on canning lines. Like, how do we market our business? And it's strange because you'll go from one conversation of somebody who's like totally green, they don't have any operations in place, to someone who is like, oh yeah, we've done this, we've done this, we've done this, we're regionally distributed, we got a plan, we just need this one little piece, and there you go. So you're in for a treat, man. It's going to be conversations all over the map.
Yeah, I think that'll be really cool. I feel fortunate too to have kind of our little ops center put together as well. I think it's going to be a very interesting way to facilitate those conversations.
I'm
Like,
happy with the group too, man. Like, we've got a solid set of resources in there that, there's not really a lot of overlap. Like, there's so many things that we're going to be covering, like legal, operations and supply support. We're the marketing folks. I'm happy that you're involved because it's like, man, there's so many conversations like, well, have you guys thought about doing this? And, have thought about adding something unique like a THC product or something, and you're right there. It's gonna be like, oh yeah, go talk to Ricky, or right over
exactly.
here. So it's gonna be
Yeah,
fun.
and to your point, it all works together, right? Like we have similar conversations where there might be a hang up on legal questions during the conversation. I'm fortunate to know that the booth is just right next to me.
Yeah, let's go ask the lawyer, right?
Yeah,
The advice
exactly.
is like, don't take it from me. I'm not a legal guy, but go talk to the lawyer, especially for what you guys do for sure. Yeah. So okay, so you're in Chicago area, right? It's where you guys are operating from. So you're
Yeah.
not
Yep.
far from Indianapolis then.
No, not too far. We'll drive over a couple
Have
days
you
before.
been?
I have been. Yeah, I've got a little family who used to live out there. I'm looking forward to going back. It's a fun city. How about yourself?
Nice. So you are a great person to ask, like, what's cool and what should we look forward to do in Indianapolis? Got any food recommendations? Is there something we should definitely check out? I was trying to talk to Dan about it. He didn't really know either. We're like, oh man, what are we gonna do? Or Ross, actually, he's a West Coast guy. We're like, I don't know what the heck to do in Indianapolis. What's your advice on that front?
That's a great question. I'm not sure it's a great one for me, though. If I'm honest, the time that I have spent in Indianapolis was at Grandma and Grandpa's house. And as lovely as it was, I'm not sure it's exactly what everyone's looking for when they come to Indianapolis. So I think all of us are going to have to go out and explore, figure it out.
Yeah, man, we're gonna have to find some locals. Again, I'll put this out there. I think I mentioned it before. Like, if you are in there, you're familiar, give us the food recs, man. I love going and eating a good
Yeah, that
meal for
first night,
lunch or whatever.
we got to go out for a bite to eat and a few beers, and then we'll send it like an email blast or something, tell everyone what's good.
Yes, please let us know because I want to know where to grab some grub and drink some beers. I'm sure there's going to be like tons of events too, like there is
Yeah.
every year. They'll do them at the different breweries, and that's going to be fun too. I love seeing that and getting a flavor for what the local guys are doing, and they seem to have fun with it for sure.
Yeah, no, I think it'll be a blast. I just love the community. Like it's just so fun to meet people and hang out and chit chat.
Right on. Are you flying in or driving in?
We'll drive there.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, we got to fly. But we'll get in, check our bags, do all the things. So good for you. You get to drive a couple hours.
Yeah, yeah, it should be solid.
Nice. Okay, so let's talk about your guys' booth specifically and what you guys are going to be doing. And I'm sure folks are going to be excited about this. So, what are you guys doing at the booth? Are you going to have product there to take a look at, or is that like not kosher? Like what you guys do? Tell us about what you've got available there.
Yeah, so unfortunately, we won't have any product or samples
Dang it.
available. The event center would rather not, but come find me after the show, and I'm sure we can get you sorted out with some sort of sample. That said, I think a lot of our focus at our booth this year is really about education. And what it boils down to for us is transparency. Like I said, trying to figure out what works well for your specific circumstances, answering the questions that might be burning. I think there are a lot of great breweries who are already doing THC drinks, and they might have some more refined questions or some more tangible next steps, let's call them. But for a majority, this is still a very new space. I think it'll be a lot of just showing up to the booth, having a conversation, getting a better understanding of how this even works. Like how is that even legal that I can walk into a Total Wine and More and buy a THC drink? So kind of ranging the gambit there, and making sure that everyone understands how to use these products effectively, but also safely. Safely meaning safe for consumption and also safe for your business.
Excellent. So I think that's key right there is the question and answer piece. Man, I could just see it. I've been at, some guild events and stuff, and anybody who's talked about this, there's just so many questions. And go hang out with Ricky and talk to. Is it just you, or you guys got a team coming out?
I'll have the rest of my team out there. I'll have two of my co-founders there, the head of government affairs. So he'll be great to answer lots of those
Ooh,
more legal questions. And then the other co-founder heads our strategic partnerships and business development. So a big part of what we do as well, we're not only working with brewers, right? There are definitely folks who find this THC beverage space intriguing, but have significantly less beverage experience than craft brewers do. And so we found this really cool opportunity to work with breweries who can actually lend their expertise to those folks and potentially co-pack for them. So Liam kind of heads up those sorts of efforts, which has been a really cool way to expand business for the breweries who do have co-packing capacity.
excellent. So lots of people there to field all of these questions. I'm sure folks are maybe thinking like, all right, maybe I run my operation, I run the brewery, or I am trying to figure out if I need to come to this booth or I should send somebody to go over there. Who's the right person to go and talk to you? Is or role of the person? Or I'm thinking like maybe there's the brewer should come, or is it ownership, or is it everybody, or who's the right person to send to your booth?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I would say all are welcome, but typically it tends to be the ownership or the brewer who kind of kicks off these projects. The way that I look at it, if you're totally new to making a THC beverage, there's a couple of things that need to be done. First, you've got to formulate a product that you're happy with and feel confident putting out in the market. That usually falls under the realm of the brewer, to make sure that they have everything they need. We can send sample kits to them. If they have an NA base, it's pretty much as easy as just dropping it in there and mixing. So that's one step of the process. The other step of the process is kind of the strategy and thought behind launching a product like this to your market, making sure that your legal counsel's on board, your insurer knows what's going on, making sure there's good product market fit, all of the labeling, those sorts of things are kind of another conversation to be had. So I would say those are kind of the two key stakeholders that I'm often chatting with.
Excellent. Excellent. I could see that being relevant for either of those groups, for sure. So I'm glad I asked you that question. As we kind of get towards wrapping up our conversation here, I know we're going to have more conversation. I'm excited to hang out and learn from you guys on site. But for those folks that are like, hey, I want to get in touch with Perfectly Dosed or Ricky ahead of time, maybe schedule some time with you guys at the conference or just get some information beforehand, or maybe they're gung ho right now and they want to start exploring products. What's the best way to coordinate with you or to reach out to you? Where can they find you guys?
Yeah, I mean, super easy to reach us on our website. Otherwise, shoot me an email, ricky@perfectlydosed.com. We've got a ton of great resources to help kind of no matter where you're at in the process. Quite literally, we've worked on hundreds of pages of written literature that is everything from just like general FAQs, how does this market work, to very specifically what can liner is the most compatible with a THC emulsion and which ones am I going to start having headaches with. We have tons of resources that range the entire gambit. And I think the best thing you can do is just learn as much as you can. And we're here to help with that.
And you guys really are. I've heard your guys' presentations in different formats, and the feedback from folks that have been at those and interacted with you guys is always overwhelmingly positive. And very commonly, folks are saying, yeah, there's just so much education that they have for us. They're always down to answer questions and help out, and it definitely translates that way. So I definitely encourage anybody to go check your guys' website out and coordinate with you and say what's up
I
at
appreciate that.
CVC for sure. Um, yeah, man. So really excited to hang out with you in a few. I guess we're getting close to here now. We're probably a little more than a few weeks, not quite a couple months away from the event. Um, for those folks listening, definitely come check us out. We're at booth 1125. On the map, it's going to be, if you look for the Beverage Federation, or if you look up any of our company names, Perfectly Dosed, Get Optimized, we're in there. We're calling it the Profit and Ops Center because we got tools and resources to help you grow and save costs as well. Ricky, thanks again, man. This was awesome.
Thank you. This was a lot of fun. Looking forward to what's to come. I think a lot of more good conversations to be had.
Absolutely, man. We'll talk soon. See you, man.
Thanks, Chris.